train. Let's go. Lines in the sand, welcome to the front row. Real life hitting, everybody wanna know. When the spin get thick, who cuts through the chain? AK, David Drew stepping into the frame. Late nights, boots in the dirt. From the grind to the house, to the scarf, to the grease stain shirts. Parents, pay fight for what's true. From the clinic to the warehouse, to your living room. Headlines screaming, but we ain't scared. Faith in our bones, yeah, we came prepared. Culture war is unchained. Where the real ones meet the rage. Where the truth cuts through the noise. Every voice on the stage. Culture war is unchained. From the heartland to your brain. If you're tired of the script, we're here to break the chain.
Welcome everybody to Culture Warriors Untrained. Drew Outstanding here. We got amazing many topics for you. We got the Justice Department establishes anti-weaponization fund. We'll dive into that. Anti-Trump incumbent Republican senator loses primary, and this is an ongoing story, the San Diego mosque shooting. We're going to have an update of what's going on with that, and it'll be a continuous, I'm sure, as the show goes on, and we can update as we go and just kind of share our opinions and commentary on that as we kind of share our ideas. A few other things we can get into, a little bit more lighthearted. Spencer Pratt is making some jokes and having fun with the LA mayoral race and the campaign that's going on there. I've seen some pretty cool things. So that's really what we need to do, is just have more, use AI for good, I guess, and funny things. That's usually the best thing we can do with it right now. Minnesota 2026 session ends. COVID-19 disbelief poll on Americans. We're kind of see where we're at and what we believe then, what we believe now, and hopefully not what's around the corner with this other virus, and hopefully it's a big nothing burger. Lab grown chocolate we can get into, and ticks make people allergic to red meat. I'm going to avoid ticks then. I normally do, but I like my red meat. Maybe I'll switch to more salmon and walleye. It's walleye season. I love me some walleye and whatever we can catch. I don't usually gut the fish. I let somebody else do that, fry them up, and we'll eat it right there. But yeah, check out Culture Warriors Unchained. Hit the like button, subscribe. We want to get some more followers, some more likes, and really people in the comments. I've been trying to dive into and talk to the comments of people, both live and then the replay as well. We're having a good time. But we're on YouTube, Rumble. I am streaming to my X and my followers over there, Facebook, and then we get into the non-video ones. So your Apple, your iTunes, Pandora, Google. We try to get everywhere and just getting the conversation going and having a good time. But like I said, I am Drew Outstanding. I'm your resident combat veteran, consultant, event planner, speaker, whatever I need to be in the so-called retirement. People say I'm retired, but I don't feel retired because I like to keep it going. But I'm going to throw it over to the other veteran on the panel. David, who are you? What do you do?
Well, good evening, everybody. David Webster, aka the Peruvian Gentleman. And yeah, I'm excited. We had a good slate we have a good show tonight, good slate of topics. We're going to get into some things. What I bring to the table: legal immigrant, military veteran like my brother in arms over there, Drew. And I just, I bring that perspective into what I'm looking at. What I saw overseas, what I saw, being born in the third world and then coming here. And I just try to give this other look, this other lens into the things that we care about, and just other ways that you can approach conservatism outside of just the born in America, red, white, and blue. Like, there's those of us that came here, we value it for different reasons, and we come to the same value systems, but from a different journey, different reasons.
And I'm AK Kamara. I'm actually the Republican National Committee man for the state of Minnesota. Reason it's relevant is because on this podcast, we think obviously culture is far more important than politics. I love politics, but you have to understand that politics is downstream from culture. And so, me being a Republican Party elected official, I'm here to show that like you can be a normal dude that understands society, that lives like is a working class guy. But also, I've taken a very big interest in politics because I think that if you get involved, if you want your politics to reflect more like working class Americans and how they live their life, you have to be willing to raise your hand, which I have done. Make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button or follow button on whatever platform that you're watching. This is episode 27. We are still a growing podcast. And if you like the content that we create, if you like the conversations, please make sure that you guys share it everywhere with every single person you've ever met, even the people that you hate. Without further ado, back to you, Drew. Lead us to the homeland.
Let's do it. Let's the Justice Department and learn a little bit more what the Justice Department does and establishing an anti-organization fund. I want to know more about this, so we can bring this up. And David, want to do some reading for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies in cash headed to alleged weaponization victim in billion-dollar Trump settlement. Acting AG Todd Blanche did something. We'll just go down. The Justice Department has created a $1.776 billion fund for people who allege they were victims of federal government lawfare as part of a settlement agreement between or in President Donald Trump's lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service. This is fantastic news. If you want to scroll past that advertisement for HYSA, go up a little bit.
Sorry, brother.
AK, less caffeine. Go. I need the top of that paragraph. All right.
There we go, brother.
It's an ad thing.
The Anti-Weaponization Fund creates a formal process for Americans alleging they were targeted through politically motivated actions by the Justice Department under previous administrations. The program is set to expire a month before the end of Trump's second term. The fund was created as part of an agreement for Trump and his sons, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., to drop the $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS they filed in January. Now, I don't know if either of you have been following that lawsuit at all and kind of what was going on there with them going after like the entire Trump family's tax records. Before Trump obviously made his bid for a second term in office, kind of during the whole Biden administration, it seemed like the Trump family was in and out of court the entire time. So this is fantastic. I have a quote here if you want me to read it. Otherwise, we can dive into it and I can read it after.
Well,
Yeah, you can.
yeah, let me say something and then dive into it.
But
yeah, was this I remember this. It's crazy. You go through all these stories from, now 4, 6, 8 years ago. But weren't they? I mean, it was when the Hunter Biden stuff was going on. So people were looking to Hunter Biden things, which was a lot of crazy stuff. But then they're like, okay, let's look into Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump. And it was like something meeting in a hotel lobby and all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking that this applies to that back then.
It does. It's kind of that entire time frame. Basically, I'll let you first finish what you're going to say, and then I'll just kind of give you guys the synopsis, high level of what initially was happening and how it led to this creation of this fund.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, so just the quote at the bottom here just says, "The machinery of government should never be weaponized against any American, and it is this department's intention to make right the wrongs that were previously done while ensuring this never happens again," Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said in a statement. As part of this settlement, we are setting up a lawful process for victims of lawfare and weaponization to be heard and seek redress.
So basically, just to kind of give a 10,000-foot view, the president had been suing the Department of Justice. And a lot of people were freaking out about it because they're like, oh, this is not fair. Basically the president as the leader of the executive branch is directing a lawsuit at another part of the executive branch, which the Department of Justice is. But people didn't seem to understand that President Trump, as an individual, was suing the Department of Justice, which is an institution, for the things that they did against himself when he was a private citizen and no longer the president of the United States. If you guys remember, the IRS suddenly or mysteriously leaked tax records to multiple news publications, and they published then private citizen Donald J. Trump's tax information. That's what happened. And so basically in this lawsuit that was occurring, it was looking pretty straightforward, like a slam dunk. And it was looking like potentially, $10+ billion lawsuit was on the line. And so what has happened with this story is that President Trump has agreed to drop that lawsuit as long as the Department of Justice sets up basically a weaponization fund, which will then be allowed for private citizens that were targeted by the Department of Justice during the Biden administration's timeline, and even a little bit after, a little bit before, because it was clear based off of the overwhelming evidence, at least as it's been reported, that the Department of Justice was going after citizens for political purposes. Some people have even argued that potentially even Mr. Hunter Biden, that he might have been, quote unquote, a victim of weaponization, when, if you remember, it's almost like the Department of Justice and the deep state, depending on how you want to kind of look at that entire narrative, it's almost like they decided that they were now going to turn their target on Hunter Biden as a way to kind of punish Joe Biden or force Joe Biden out. Because remember, he got caught with that weapons charge, right, for throwing the gun in the garbage can or whatever. But he didn't get charged with like all the other garbage that was going on.
Well, they probably got sick of running interference. So it's just like they're doing all this. We're like running interference, and then this is just my opinion based on what I remember at the time. And it's just like, okay, let's tailor it back now and just open up the floodgates, and then you get Kamala Harris, being the new person, and they're like, okay, we're done. That's the way I kind of saw that, where it'd just be like they did all this like nose guarding for Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and then at some point they just let Kamala jump in and they're like, okay, we're done protecting the Biden people.
Yeah, I see this as a larger, they're making right the things that were kind of done, because I mean, obviously you had conservatives being targeted for like tax things and property tax stuff, and then you also had people in the military getting punished for refusing the vaccine and things like that. And I actually have something that ties into this I'll share real quick after, but AK, looks like you have something up you want us to run through real quick. But yeah, I think it all kind of ties into this together, where we're making right a lot of the injustices that people have dealt with for like the previous presidencies, the last 4 years.
Dude, you hit the nail on the head. And to further prove this point, because again, the way that the left and the corporate media, the way that they're spinning this is that this is President Trump's way to make sure that his buddies are able to be compensated, and that it's like a big grift. But very specifically in this agreement, Trump and his sons are ineligible to receive compensation from the fund, but will receive a formal apology according to the Department of Justice. He also agreed to withdraw 2 additional claims for damages, one stemming from the unlawful FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, the other related to the Russia collusion hoax in which Obama officials are accused of manipulating intelligence reports on Russia's interference in the 2016 election. So to your point, though, David, you hit the nail on the head, man. This is because the Department of Justice, along with other agencies, have done this deep state manipulation, and you have to disincentivize those types of actions going forward. And I think it's just an acknowledgement that this is not just a right-wing conspiracy. Like, the evidence is very, very strong that they did a lot of this stuff completely abusing and weaponizing the Department of Justice, which, if we're in a free society and we have this thing called democracy that the Democrats always freak out about, then yeah, we actually have to be able to gain some of that trust back. And how do you do that? Well, this is a pretty good way. It will ensure.
Well, yeah, you're saying that it happened in before, and that's where the apology comes in. They're like, "Yep."
I actually think they're
not going to admit to
bigger
it.
deal.
But then going forward, we're not going to do it again. Or if we do it again, we know that we're going to be held accountable. That's the way it has to go with these things, because otherwise bad actors are going to continually do it. I remember we talking about Obama level era time with that 2026 and before. The what was it? Conservative groups that you would donate to on your tax dollars were used by another department to go after you, individual people, by just making a donation to, say,
and a lot of that stuff got made public too.
Exactly. And then you get doxxed.
Like your employers got to see who you were donating campaign funds to, which is absolutely a violation of your privacy.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And kind of, again, just to show another, the overall point of what this does is that it not only allows people that were clearly, in my opinion, victims, and when I say my opinion, the overwhelming evidence, and sure, it hasn't been adjudicated by a court, but the people that were victims of weaponization, such as January 6 rioters, would be potentially able to seek taxpayer payouts. But here's a huge point right here. The fund could even issue formal apologies, right? And that's a huge thing, right? To have the acknowledgement of a government institution saying, yes, we did this wrong, I think is probably bigger than the actual financial compensation in and of itself, because when the government admits to doing things, like, that is an official acknowledgement. Permanent, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
I was going to say, that's what I was saying, is I think that's bigger for the Trump family than getting cash. I mean, they're all wealthy already. They, what's more money going to do for them? But actually having the U.S. government say, no, we did this thing that was morally wrong because we were commanded to do so by XYZ party, infinitely more impactful. I would agree with that.
Well, yeah. And then, like we talked about, it sets a standard that that similar thing should not be done again in the next 2 or 4 or 8 or whatever years in a slightly different way. It basically puts people on notice. And like you said, AK with the deep state, because they stay there longer than the current person in office, what have you. And so it creates a way to not have a standard operating procedure, an SOP or a best practices. Be like, oh yeah, we did this before. Now we're just going to do it similar again to the current situation, be it COVID or January 6th or Charlie Kirk or, whatever the case is, or taxes.
100%.
Yeah, and this is a continuation of, like, what I was saying, between the lawfare and then using COVID as an excuse to go after people for violating quarantine procedures. Just recently here, the Coast Guard's reinstated 56 members who were dismissed for refusing COVID vaccines under Biden administration. And I've been getting updates on this. There's been Marines, Army people, high-ranking officers, some of them, and most of them have gotten back pay for what would have been their entire military career. So, like,
there's a lot of nuance to it, but yeah, it's possible.
And I think that's incredible. Yep.
Yeah, you got to have some lawyers. I've been following this stuff with people I know behind the scenes. It's super complicated, and it's not just a free ride or a all is made whole again. And
I would assume they got to be in shape and ready to go back to service. Like, you couldn't have sat at home and eat potato chips and Funyuns.
Well, there are people like that currently serving during our
listen. We need those drone.
Could you
pilots,
go back and serve right now? I think you could go back and serve, even though
listen. I could be a drone pilot. I don't gotta run the 2 mile. I don't gotta run 11-minute 2 mile to fly a drone. All right, I just gotta be able
changing
to do
the standards back and forth.
But yeah, down here,
with enough
Secretary Kristi Noem said 56 members of the United States Coast Guard who were kicked out of the service under the COVID-19 vaccine have finally been reinstated with back pay. This is a victory for religious personal and medical freedom for all Americans, both in and out of uniform.
Lovely. Yeah, man. Again, just to make sure that the listeners understand, this is not about getting a dollar or specifically the monetary compensation. It's just acknowledgement that, like, we can't let this happen again. Like, and by making these agreements and by acknowledging these things, it will stop future administrations from doing that. It's just, that's what this does. It's been precedent. You look back through our history. It's why it's such a big deal when the government acknowledges wrongdoings, because a lot of times they'll try and cover stuff up and they'll be like, what are you talking about? No one ever admitted this, you know? And so ultimately, that's what I think the listeners need to understand, is that it might feel like, oh, who cares? You know, people need to go to jail. All of that is true. Multiple things can be true at the same time, but this is a good first step. And
otherwise it will repeat back and forth. And so people behind the scenes, it doesn't always make the media because of this or that, are putting a lot of effort in this, be it attorneys, producers, filmmakers. So I was actually got to be a part of a documentary that's going to be released next month, I believe June 30th. So I'm going to go and show this trailer. They said show it as many people as you can. So it's 4 minutes, but it is a good watch and is connected to the people that were kicked out of the military for refusing it, and then also that were damaged. So I'm going to show this.
And while you're queuing that up in the chat, guys, if you're potentially going to benefit from this, this lawfare settlement, or if you're going to have, if you experienced, targeting for the, during the COVID era, throw it in the chat. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear your story. See, if other people went through the same thing that we know of.
Yeah, because you can't just sit back and wait for, allow bad actors to happen. You got to keep going with it. But we're going to get.
I had a battalion commander come to me and she said, "Dear God, we're killing our own soldiers."
We gather today to honor the incredible service members.
We owe you our thanks. We owe you our respect. We owe you our freedom.
Just as we have gathered before to remember those who served, those who fought, and those who gave their last full measure of devotion for our country.
According to the Associated Press, the Pentagon is going to require vaccines for all service members.
I'm asking the Defense Department to look into how and when they will add COVID-19 to the list of vaccinations our armed forces must get.
The military was ordering service members to take a shot that they could not lawfully order them to take.
Are you choosing to be non-compliant?
Leaders did everything legal or illegal within their power to coerce and influence their service members to get the shot.
I'll never forget, I received a phone call from a mother whose son was a Marine at 29 Palms, and she told me her son and 9 other Marines were being held in confinement in the brig until they got vaccinated.
If you don't do what they tell you to do, they will ostracize you. They will destroy your life.
Stop resisting or you will get tased!
They threatened me with Leavenworth imprisonment. They banned me from all Army Public Health Center facilities for 413 days.
I counted over 140 days where I was put into isolation.
Once it becomes normalized in the military, it often very quickly finds its way into the civilian population, as we saw with the COVID mandate.
The effects extend well beyond just those in uniform, and the impact is really on the entire nation.
8,000 well-trained men and women were fired.
I lost my income. I lost my ability to feed my family.
I mean, I'm being told you're getting dishonorably discharged.
And if you get dishonorable, you lose everything. You can't get certain jobs as a civilian. It follows you for life.
You cannot mandate an experimental medical product. You cannot mandate that on military members.
In my entire medical career prior to this, I had never seen a young person with a stroke. I had never seen someone have a massive clot without provocation.
We were in great shape. We were doing very well. But then as soon after the vax is when my health went downhill.
When people celebrate all the freedoms that the military gets to grant this country, when the military's freedoms and really the country's freedoms are actually being taken away.
Why was the vaccine mandate unlawful? How come the Secretary of War is telling us that the vaccine mandate was unlawful?
We all know that the previous administration issued unlawful orders on mandatory vaccines on an experimental vaccine, COVID-19. You know it, we know it.
You are taught that you have a duty to disobey unlawful orders.
They postulated that we're going to have back pay for members that were kicked out. They're inviting these warriors back into service.
And that was huge. And I was so happy to hear that. but that does nothing for the institution itself.
What I have understood from people in the military is that it has not been made easy and that it really still needs to be done on an individual basis.
We haven't stopped in 4 years when everybody was ignoring us, and we're not going to stop for another 4, 14, or 40 years.
We are at a critical juncture, and the soul of this nation is at stake.
When we talk about orders that are unlawful, now there is a duty to disobey.
Yeah, so that was a trailer to Duty to Disobey. And yeah, I was invited to be on that about a year ago. And so I know I made the cut. I just don't know how I did in the show. But first I want to get your guys' input on what you just saw, and then I'll talk to people how they can go and see it.
I'm gonna let you go first, David, just because you probably are connected with people that experience this in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I had some friends that I served with that were, coming up on what would be like so one of the other side effects or side impacts of this, if you will, I'm 37 now. I went in at 17. If I hadn't gotten the injuries I got, I'd basically be dropping my retirement packet for 20 years of military service this year. Right. So there's guys that I deployed with, there's guys that I was enlisted with that are, they're counting down the years to retirement. And then this COVID thing happens, and, these mandates, these orders, they're being forced, and it doesn't matter their rank. They were getting rid of people that were lieutenant colonels. It didn't matter. And they had to choose, right, between, do I want to take this shot so I can get my federal pension, so that, my family gets all my retirement benefits, the kids get the free college, right, the medical care, or do I decline this and they end my career early, right? Or they could discharge me for disobeying orders, or ultimately what happened to people. And so I do know some people that that kind of went through that, and I actually know of two. I won't divulge their names, that did actually get reinstated with back pay, and they're actually going to drop their retirement packets because now they have their 20 years, which is what they were kind of waiting on, and then they were going to spend time with their family. And I think that's the side of it that maybe is kind of missed. And I feel like this film is going to kind of touch on that. That there's the medical consequence, but then there's also the financial consequence. It's like working for a company, and then all of a sudden they figure out a loophole to fire you and not have to pay you retirement, right? It's a dishonorable discharge. You don't even get VA health care for most things, right? Dishonorable discharges don't go there. I think
Most
the only
people don't
exception
know
they make,
what they even lose.
Yep.
Or
I
won't
think the only
qualify
exception
for.
they make is mental health, but otherwise, yeah, if you have dishonorable discharge or you're
But it's
kicked
a
out for
fight. You gotta be your own
nonconformity. Yep.
advocate while you're fighting for your
Yep.
own, career, sanity, health, all these things at the same time. Yeah. And we're doing this Monday morning quarterback, 5 years later. At the
Yeah.
time, you didn't know what was gonna happen. You don't know what you were had to sign off on, what will be the consequence. Because like if you don't go to the next leadership school, you couldn't go on the deployment, you couldn't get the promotion. It's all these like series of events. And yeah,
You miss out on
it
classes,
was
you miss promotion
very
points. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Many people think, you just get these military benefits. You're like, oh, must be nice. Like, no, you earn it every single day by making that choice. And then even when you're in it, it could be lost at any second.
Right.
Yeah, and even for those
and
of us
our-
that did everything
our-
right, like it was still a decades long fight for me to get the benefits that I have now. It wasn't automatic. Like so even if you don't have this, it's still a fight. So now you're just making the fight twice as hard as it's already going to be. It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Yeah, I think the
Thank you,
thing that for myself as a civilian, right? The thing that's always been so frustrating with COVID specifically is this truly was this breaking apart of our institution, where, I mean, listen, we understand that when you sign that contract to serve this country, in an essence, you've now become part of the US government. But the fact that at the outset of that program, that they would use, of all the people, like that you would use those that voluntarily sign up to serve this country, truly, honestly, in my opinion, as huge guinea pigs. Like that's what this really came down to. They knew, like the people that were putting together these policies knew that there was going to be such a dire consequence from refusing to have this experimental, technology, that the mass number of people that they would be able to have data and studies from was larger than any other sample size that they could even imagine, because it cuts across all these different strains. And those that were like 10 toes down saying, I am not going to do this, they knew that that would be the consequence. So yeah, a lot of people said, I'm going to do it, man. And so that is the first thing that makes me so frustrated. And sometimes it's hard to just like not acknowledge or not constantly acknowledge how, of all the groups of people that were done wrong in our society, our armed services and armed forces members are the ones that were done the dirtiest, because they still
Yeah.
have to try and go on and serve, and so many families were affected so negatively. But to me, I feel that we've at least started to touch on some of these points, but there's still a huge long way to go to being able to actually get justice for the people that were affected. But then secondly, make sure that this never ever happens again in that capacity. Like, it's absurd that we lost our minds. And I think that, a documentary like this will be eye-opening, because the truth is, when time goes by, people start to forget, like the people that
They
weren't.
do. And it
that weren't
repeats
affected.
over and over again, 4 years later, 5 years, 20, and all these different things. Yeah. I got another one up here to.
I mean,
to
we got
share how to
hantavirus
get
coming
watch.
up right now, and we're going to see how many people are so quick to forget what we just went through. It's mind-boggling, because you
I
already
was
see
watching
people
that.
talking
We were
about,
watching that
are we
on
going to
a
do
different show.
vaccinations again? Are we going to do masks again? And I'm like, it didn't work the last time. What do you?
Many people want that. There's videos that are people legit. It's not joking that they're like, yep, do this. Here's a KN90. Like, here's all this. We
It's
were
a
here
false sense
before.
of security. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not what our country is made on, and that's what we do. But let me go ahead and show you how to go about seeing this duty to disobey. If you got that link ready to go to share me. But yeah, the film's called Duty to Disobey. Can you open that up?
Yeah, I'm looking for the link right now.
We can also throw it in the description of the video here.
I should be sharing it right
people
now.
watching after.
Oh, you're sharing it right now? Okay.
Yeah, so you just gotta approve.
Gotcha. My bad, man.
No worries. Duty to Disobey, Tommy Burrows production. Is it up there?
It is
went
now.
away.
I pressed it one too many times.
All right, there we go. And I don't know if any viewers in there
Don't
saw
miss the
our
live show.
boy John Frankeman, Green Beret, is in it too. So he got in the trailer.
Yeah, I clocked him.
So-
That boy cleans up nice. Yeah.
Yeah, he was dressing down for our show for some reason. I said be casual, but he's normally in David style suit and tie and all that. But yeah, Duty to Disobey, they did amazing work, and the best way it's going to be a premiere. You can see it all over the country on June 30th. So all you do is go to dutydisobeyfilm.com, buy tickets, put in your zip code. So I think you even just put in something on here, Arizona. I don't know if that's going to show up. Yep. See, and then already on here, there's different Arizona ones. But if you just go Minnesota, and we got our Roseville. I think I talked about this last week. So yeah, well, it's going to go to something else. But yeah, basically it's playing virtually everywhere. They got participation with so many theaters. And so you can
So
check.
here's my question for you, Drew. And this, I'm sure the chat will want to know this. When are we going? All three of us. And are we
June
live
30th, bro.
streaming? Are we live streaming before we go in or after we come out?
What day is that? So that's a Tuesday. We can figure it out. We can do.
I'm
I'll
down.
do a Q&A with the best of my knowledge afterwards and stuff like that. So, but yeah, buy your tickets. Anything helps. And then there is an opportunity to have the DVD. So
What's that?
I know, right? Hey, physical media. AK and I were just talking about.
Make it a comeback. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's better. Yeah.
Yeah. But they could change this around. But yeah, have physical media. There you go. You can also support by getting the DVD duty to disobey and hold on to that for when your kids are going through their pandemic, epidemic, or whatever. Be like, hey, check this out, you know. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. That came off the topic of we don't want to repeat bad things from previously happening. So that's why we have these conversations.
100%, man. 110%.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only way to do it. Otherwise, we're just robots, just abiding by whatever, you know, the big government, big pharma, big whatever is saying that we have to do after we wake up and go to bed each time. But yeah, what's next to talk about? I think we have
we can kind of break down, you know, do you want to go heavy or do you want to go politics? What do you want to do, David? It's your call, brother.
So, I mean, just because of the flow of the show and kind of how we work, I feel like if we do heavy in the middle, we have a chance to kind of emotionally come back up with our viewers. Otherwise, if we end the show on a heavy note, as everybody's just going to leave and be a little down in the dump. So we don't want to do that to people.
We got some funner ones at the end, but I think
we'll have some fun.
Do we want to do anti-Trump recumbent primary or the San Diego?
Let's jump down to the third story. I actually have it here. I'll share it on my. Oh, never mind. You got it already. Don't go too fast to me, AK. So this is breaking news. This has been within the last couple of hours. I'm monitoring even on my phone while we're live, just kind of updates so that, you know, throughout the show, if we get more information, I can come out and share it. But 3 adults were killed and 2 teen suspects dead in the shooting at the San Diego Islamic Center, police say. And if you scroll down for me, AK, 3 adult men were killed in a shooting at the Islamic Center of San Diego on Monday. The police said 2 teenage suspects also died in the incident. Authorities responded to reports of an active shooter at the mosque complex, which also houses a school where children were present at the time. Police said that the threat was contained and large numbers of officers, including SWAT teams, secured the area while children and families were evacuated. Federal and local authorities, including the FBI, are assisting with the investigation as officials work to determine the motive behind the attack. So I'm going to pull up another thing, but just off of that, I kind of want to get your guys' take on the situation. Mine is, you know, I believe that, you know, I believe in what Charlie Kirk said, that, you know, radical Islam doesn't necessarily have a place in, you know, doesn't combine with Western culture. I also, however, don't think this is the answer, right? Putting laws in place that ban things like Sharia practices here in America, like that makes sense. This, you know, it's the wrong answer in my opinion. I think as somebody who's seen this kind of violence firsthand, you know, on the other side of the world, like I've always said, I don't want that here. And whether it's them doing it to us, whether it's us doing it to them, you know, like I said, we don't necessarily know the identity of the shooters yet. So but it seems like they were shooting at the mosque. But I'm looking for that. But just, you know, I guess I'll leave it at that. If you guys want to throw in kind of what your thoughts are, I'm going to pull up this other piece of information.
Yeah, I'm going to say this one without saying their names, but suspects in San Diego mosque shooting identified as an 18-year-old and 17-year-old report. 3 people were killed in Monday's afternoon shooting, including a security guard at the center.
That's what I do have the names here.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't read them off, but I'll say it's not who people probably suspect it was, and they were actually shooting at the mosque, not from it. AK, I know you're somebody who kind of comes from more of a mixed background of both sides of, you know, where the victim's, you know, mindset may be. And do you kind of want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously deciding that you're going to go and kill people who have a different worldview from you is always an evil act. If you are using lethal force in order to stop an action from occurring, whether we're talking about militarily or you are in defense of your life and your property or the lives of others, all of that makes perfect sense. But we as a free society do not believe that you should be able to go around and indiscriminately kill anyone based off of their ideological worldview. I think that is evil. Like, there's just no question about it. I understand that, yes, Islam has a very specific threat presence in the United States of America. And in and of itself, if you were to say there's an argument about the, if you want to say, the de-radicalization that needs to occur within the Islamic faith. There's a gal, Ayan Hersey, I believe is how you say her first name, but she is she's wrote multiple books talking about how there needs to be a reformation period basically in Islam. But if you set that aside and you just look at in general people that have a faith and they are practicing that faith, as long as they are not directly harming others, you should be able to allow to practice the tenets of your faith. And so, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Anyone that's being serious about stuff, I know online is troll bait everywhere and all these different things. But anyone that's being serious, the loss of innocent life is always a tragic and horrible thing. And in my opinion, the loss of even life when it's justified is still not a great thing either, because I believe that life is precious. But you have some more information you want to give there, Mr. Webster?
Yeah, so it looks like this was uploaded about 27 minutes ago from a press conference. So, this kind of ties into political violence in this country, kind of as an overall issue, and the issue of mental health. Because we have here, so the San Diego police, mother of one of the suspects, reported this morning that several of her weapons and her vehicle were missing. Her son was suicidal and he was with a companion, both dressed in camo. Police are actively looking for the suspects when the shooting at the Islamic Center happened. So so the mother was actually proactive. She called it in. She said, hey, some guns and some other stuff is missing. It looks like here we've got a statement from law enforcement. And it looks like, like here they said prior to the shooting, one of the mothers alerted police that her son was suicidal and he stole guns and her vehicle, both, and they were 17 and 18-year-old, the shooters.
Yeah, I got a little clip from there, a 20-second we can play.
Yeah,
turn me on. Turn me on.
Turn me on, buddy.
Listen, this is a family show. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. How many total deceased? So we have our 2 suspects that are deceased. We have 3 victims at the Islamic Center. All 3 are adults, for a total of 5 people that are deceased related to this incident.
So yeah, that's the latest I've heard is 5 total deceased. The 2 suspects, like you said, David, the mother that called from what I read, it was a runaway juvenile, however that's defined. But that after you said that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. This mom called saying missing weapons, dressed in camp, whatever. She gave some kind of description, and then the police were able to piece together what was either happening right then or what could happen soon, or to be ready with this intel. At least that's faster than your typical FBI. He was on our radar type deal. So, I mean,
we knew about him all along,
and didn't get to it. I mean, this didn't get to it. It's never.
We were watching the Oklahoma boys for a decade before they blew.
Yeah, I know,
up.
and we can go down that stuff and how effective law enforcement is compared to how efficient they should be when it comes to this stuff. It just gets too much. But yeah, 5 total, the 2 suspects, and then 3 victims at that location.
And I'll throw a bone to the tech people. Like, this is actually an instance of social media and the information age actually being beneficial, right? Something like this where you're getting the information out, right, to the police. Maybe they saw, maybe they were on some Reddit threads or some stuff on their home computers, and you were able to connect all of that back to law enforcement through the mother. So I mean, hats off to her. They don't have her named, obviously, but that has to take a lot.
Let me ask you that question,
like
guys.
I said before,
would you? Okay, you can put this either way. Would you do that for your child that could do some harm against people, or would you expect your parents to call it in on you?
I mean,
it's tough, man.
I feel like I know my parents probably would have if I had ended up on that road. My father, I remember distinctly, I was in high school and like I had some friends that were drinking and partying, and my father said to me, and I'll remember it till the day I die, he said, I've raised you to be a man, to do the right thing. And if you get busted at a party, I'm not coming to get you. You're spending the night in jail. So I know where my parents stand on that. As for me, yeah, I mean, I feel like, I think the mother ultimately wanted the law enforcement agents to intervene in, potentially a violent situation so that she could, get the kid, apprehend him, get him help that he needs. Obviously he's suicidal. I've heard people say this, and I've always agreed with this, that if you don't value your own life, it's really easy to take someone else's life. Most of the people you see, they're out here killing people, they've given it a nihilism, or they hate themselves, right? They're already self-harming, so they harm others. Like it's we have a real mental health problem in this country.
It's got to be a tough call to make, to do that. It's your own child or what have you, but I'm guessing they saw the signs. This didn't happen overnight. With something to make you call law enforcement and be like, hey, there's something bad probably going to happen. I need to tell you some things. It was probably a series of events, because we're all kids. We get in our own trouble, but the way it crosses the line for me is like, are you going to do harm to others? Just the sense, is it going to have an impact on somebody else? And then for me, I would. What do you think, AK? Where would you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that anyone that has a loved one that is either been to prison or faced prison, it's probably a little bit easier to imagine what you would do. And what I mean by that is, like, prison ain't the end of the world, but ending other people's lives is the end of those people's world. And so if you want your loved one to potentially get the help that they need, like, them going to prison is a far better variable than them continuing to go out and harm innocent people. The only people to me that would not turn in a loved one are people that are like themselves, like narcissists, sociopaths that don't really care if other people are harmed. But I just think the vast majority of people would turn in a loved one if they were, they had reasonable suspicion to believe that their loved one had committed a crime. I would, like, straight up, if I found out that my brother or even my wife, did some like heinous, evil things, I would turn them in. And it doesn't mean that you don't love that person anymore, which I think sometimes is like a weird area where, oh, you don't want to, have someone face consequences, and that means that you don't love them. It's like, that's not love. That's
enabling.
Well, it gets where, AK, David, you did all that you could, and you are out of options. Like, you did all you could. You tried it. You tried to talk. You tried to get help,
and it's like
whatever.
what my father said, right? I've raised you to behave correctly, to behave appropriately, and to follow the law and follow the rules. And if you decide to go to a house party and drink, and you get caught and you get thrown in the drunk tank, I'm leaving you there to face the consequences of your actions. And I think that the benefit to that is I grew up with the fear of consequences, right? From when I was little, right? If I didn't do something right, like, I got punished for it. And, we need to bring some of that back as well. I think, kids struggle mentally in all kinds of ways without structure. Right. And it sounds like maybe this young man,
trust me, you guys don't have kids,
structure in his life,
but it's harder than you think, even with a 5-year-old.
Oh, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, you want to do it. I know it'd be harder for me now, being a parent, to be like, yep, come and get them, or something like that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want any harm to be done to somebody else. But like you said, the younger they are, you, like David, you didn't have the wisdom like that you have now, that your dad had back then, trying to explain it to you. You just think that your parents don't understand, all the songs that say that. And it's true to a sense, but they also have the wisdom to be like, hey, I know what could happen. Let's talk it out. But yeah, that it's that caring, being a parent.
I'm glad that you brought up music,
accountable,
because we have to have a conversation about something. Because I think this mother did something incredibly selfless, in spite of the fact that this was her child. But we need to talk about, because AK, you and I, we've talked about old school rap and hip hop on this channel, but there's this whole culture that was built in the last couple of decades around, like, the anti-snitch idea, right? Like don't rat out your boys if they're doing something. And I fundamentally disagree with that. Like, if I see kids breaking bottles and doing drugs, near my house and I got kids in that house, I'm making a call. I might go address it with them directly, but I'm making a call because the safety of my family is more important, right? And ultimately the safety of those kids. Like they're probably getting influenced by some bad crowd, right? And maybe they need an officer to pull them aside, be like, hey, listen, man, you gotta straighten up, or I have to come back here and charge you with something when you're of age to be charged, or send you to juvie. Like it doesn't mean I want like somebody's life upended, but sometimes you got to put a little fear in somebody to be like, hey, you have to follow the rules. And
It does.
I think that
I'm
this
remembering
idea
a video
of
in
yeah,
the summer of love, or right after these protests, and kids were, ditching school, or teachers were allowing them to leave school. And it was a black kid, black mother, and the mother had to leave work and go grab, like, he had to be like 14 years old, like taller than his mom. And his mom, you got to be kidding. And, like, took off her sandal and
I
said,
remember
get
that.
back in school right now. I don't care what the teachers are saying. I don't care what the other kids are doing. You need to get back. And I'm like, props to that mom. Yeah, like,
I remember
good.
that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
mom was incredible. We should find that clip one of these days. But
I
yeah, no, I agree.
I was also going to say, just to be completely straightforward with what we are seeing, every group that thinks that they have a ox to gore is going to jump on this. So of course you're already seeing people that are typically on the left saying this is what happens when you have anti-Islamic rhetoric, right? So they're going to jump on that, even though there are not details that have been released. Like, could it come out that these are two people that specifically hated anyone that practiced Islam because they watched some right winger? It's possible, but it also could just be like this new, very scary ideology of just accelerationists. It's these kids that have been groomed literally online into these death cults. There's a gal, I can't remember, I think her name was like Becca X on X or whatever it was, and she had been following the story of these accelerationists. It's these kids that literally get groomed by people online to just want to end it all and then watch the world burn on their way out in a blaze of glory. And sometimes they will target things. They will even use like hateful ideological symbols, so they can just make it all a mess. So everyone will be like, no, that was a Nazi. That person had a Trump sticker. That person had this. And they just want to cause maximum chaos, but they don't actually have any real ideology other than just accelerating some type of conflict. And
That's
so
a good point.
it could be
Blaming
that.
it on. Yeah, it could be. It could be a lot of these different things. I mean, the monetization of influencers, of just getting famous real quick and getting money off this stuff, and it could be part of it as well. But yeah, AK, I see what you're saying, because it just, this stuff happens and then it goes viral and everyone's seeing it and talking about it and then just running with it. And if there's a monetary gain, people will just push this stuff and then, like you said, blame it on something else. Wasn't it a couple months ago that a lot of these things were fake? Was it the Southern Poverty Law Center
Yep.
type stuff, where it was just
Yep.
a lot of these things were just made up, or they're getting paid to push things that, whatever, a symbol that was there and that was used to do harm for other things or raise money or whatever.
So I have a quick update for us. So real quick, the 3 victims killed were inside the mosque. It looks like both suspects later found dead in a vehicle a couple blocks away. So I don't know if law enforcement actually apprehended them and engaged them, or if they ended up taking their own lives. We don't know that at this time. It looks like a landscaper was shot at during the shooter's escape, but was not hit. And everybody on the grounds of the school, all the students and staff, were confirmed safe. Police are treating the attack as a hate crime. So that's kind of the latest.
Yeah,
One
one
intel
of the
coming out
things-
about that, and it looks like Trump was making a statement about it as well in that video, or in that clip.
Yeah, so the sheriff down there in San Diego County, I think it's San Diego County, but the sheriff had said that of kind of like the totality, the law enforcement did not actually engage the 2 shooters at all. So that's why they're like, the engagement was from a security officer, and that security officer ended up being one of the victims as well. But that security officer's actions may have turned the 2 shooters to say, nah, this ain't worth it. And then they went and decided just to, to basically end their spree and then end their own lives. But specifically what the sheriff said is that law enforcement did not engage with the suspects. They found them already deceased. So that's at least what that information.
Yeah, Post Millennial is saying at least 3 people were killed in the shooting, including the 2 shooters also killed themselves. So Post Millennial is saying that, updated 2
total
minutes
of 5.
ago. Yeah, total of 5. The 2 shooters themselves.
Yep. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, we don't get a play-by-play of what everything happens. Everyone wants that like it's a movie,
Right. Yeah.
but
The reality is
we
there's
don't
so
really
much
know.
more that has to come out, right? We don't know what did they have help?
Right.
Was there other motivations? Were they part of some hate group forums online? Like we need a lot of people will jump on just making assumptions about what it is. And I would just say that, the only response I really have to this right now is we need to make sure that this doesn't turn into an argument about gun control, because there was, a security officer involved in the situation that, may have been an ultimate deterrent to greater violence happening. And I think we need more of that, not less. And in addition to that, we need to focus on the issue of mental health we have in this country, especially with young people, especially with everything they went through during like the COVID era in particular, where they were isolated, they couldn't go out, they had to wear masks, they were told to, by our governor even to rat out their family members if too many people got together for Thanksgiving. And that's going to do numbers on people. And we have kids that are never going to catch up. And I don't know, I look at the ages of these young men and, I would hazard a guess that COVID affected them negatively in some way, like it did a lot of people their age, some of which will never catch up.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that's the overall issue here, but I'm sure there are other factors. But I mean, we need we instead of making the non-issues an issue, we need to focus on, we should increase security for places with children and learning, and we should be looking and honing in more on the mental health issues that our young people are having from, too much screen time, the COVID lockdowns, the algorithms pushing addictive content and short form content into their faces all day.
It's tough. Yeah, that's a good wrap up to that. AK, what's your final thoughts on this topic? And then throw it to me and we'll move from there.
Yep. Again, final thoughts are, don't take the bait. It's so early on, but don't take any of the bait. I don't think that there's anything to show that this is, Islamophobia. You're obviously going to have the people that have Israel derangement syndrome. They're going to say, see, it's all, Israel's fault and it's the Jews, and their rhetoric is just leading to more Islamic people being targeted. And then you're going to have people on the other far left side saying that it's, the demonization of Trump against Muslims and blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to, like you said, you're going to have the anti-gun people that are like, see, this is what happens when you allow firearms and weapons of war and all these different things. So none of that is at all at this point. There's no evidence to show any of that would be true. And even if they came out and it was some crazy white nationalist that got, we'll say radicalized to do whatever, the actions of individuals are the actions of individuals. It's how we react to those things that really matter. So everyone that I've seen that's sane has condemned the senseless murder of innocent people, regardless of your belief, which is something that the left doesn't do. If this was completely flipped around and this was like a left winger that went and killed a bunch of people on the right, you would have leftists celebrating. So that's my final closing piece, is like, be a compassionate, good human being. Don't be a garbage human that celebrates death of people that have a different worldview than you.
You both had very good points on that. Yeah, I can combine that and say, who's benefiting, from this? Who has the power to gain from stories like this, from the actions of these people that are doing harm to humans? It's so weird to think about it. There shouldn't be harm done to other people. That shouldn't be a tough thing to say, but it does happen every single day. And like you said, David, earlier in this, that we didn't want to bring, we did this war in battles across the world. We didn't want to see this back on our home state, home country, all this back and forth on whatever beliefs, but people are gonna gain from this. And like you said, David, when in AK's talked about last week, the gun reform in Minnesota now are they gonna use that as a reason to push more or gun control on our actual constitutional rights, against tyranny, against hunting our own food, defense, people at somebody at our door, like in 2020 riots when the police are hours away and the threat is minutes away. What are you supposed to do? And so, yeah, that was a tough topic. We're going to have more of those, but it makes sense to talk about it, report what's being reported, and just try to be the best people we can, like you two gentlemen mentioned, and just continually to push forward, not be black pilled.
Real quick, Drew, before you jump into the next topic, we got a couple of comments here from, it looks like Jason Hackala. First off, he just jumped in and said, "Happy Monday, guys. I'm just arriving." And then to the story we were just going through, do kids really watch the news? I think it's the parents and teachers teaching this behavior. And I mean, that's definitely potentially a possibility. I just think that a lot of young people are kind of getting hit on a million sides. There's so much competition for the attention of our young people, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, in some cases the parents play a role in that, or teachers, but I would say that it's a little bit of everything. You know, they're facing world challenges that we never had growing up, right?
Yeah. And that's why it pays for us as older adults, older, however you want to put it. I don't feel old, but, just that we've had some wisdom in the last 20 years or so that we can talk to our children, our nieces, nephews, and try to relate to them some wisdom, like your dad did to you about the partying and drinking and the consequences that come from it. Same as we can about screen time and good and evil, and you got to do the best you can. But yeah, you got to admit that we're fighting an uphill battle, and like you said, against our children's attention and their ability to cross over the line and do damage, and we got to avoid that at all costs. So let's hopefully talk about a better topic. I know it's politics, but it is good to get a ear and an eye and an understanding of what's going on with the politics. So AK, let's jump into that. And then I think Jason had one more, just good points, all true. Yeah, thanks. We appreciate that. We're doing our best to share our wisdom based on what's going on in the world. And Jason, we appreciate your comments. It helps out a ton.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about what matters in the world of politics. If you're someone that is still a supporter of President Donald Trump, which according to the most recent polling is anyone that identifies as a Republican, it's like 95% of us are still 100% on board with President Trump. And that is the people that are traitors to President Trump and the mega coalition. Now, this specific story is pretty earth-shattering from a political standpoint. Senator Bill Cassidy lost the GOP primary just couple of days ago, actually, in Louisiana, as the Trump-backed Letlow and Fleming make a runoff. And I mean, it was brutal. Incumbent Senator Bill Cassidy was decisively eliminated in Louisiana's newly implemented closed Republican primary, finishing a distant third with only 24.4% of the vote. This defeat marks a direct political retribution for Cassidy's 2021 vote to convict Donald Trump during the second impeachment trial, making him the only sitting Republican senator targeted by the White House this season. The race will now proceed to a June 27th runoff election between Trump-endorsed Representative Julia Letlow and State Treasurer John Fleming, who captured the top two spots respectively. In his concession speech, Cassidy delivered a sharp critique of the president's character, while noting that the state's newly altered partisan voting rules had caused widespread confusion amongst his supporters. So there's just a couple of things that I want to mention just to kind of give some context here of why this matters. What people don't realize is that as much as you, let's say, hate the two-party system, that is the system that we have. And the way that this two-party system works is that if you are the Republican who becomes president, you are the leader of the Republican Party of the United States, good, bad, or indifferent. If you are the Democrat who becomes president of the United States, you are the leader of the Democrat Party in the United States. But somewhere along the line, a bunch of people thought, well, that doesn't matter. I'm a senator, I'm a congressman, I'm a governor, and I can defy the leader of the Republican Party. Now, you could become independent. You don't have to be a Republican. You don't have to be a Democrat. But if you are going to be a party identified individual and the president is that same party, that's the way that it works, because they are the highest vote getting elected official of that party. And so President Trump has been on a mission. During his first term, he wasn't as, if you want to say, heavy handed about this. And I think it actually hurt him going into the 2020 election cycle. And he has since completely reversed all the courses, and he has taken that mantle as leader of the Republican Party, and he is flexing his might all over the place. And Bill Cassidy is an example of that. And so I'm just kind of curious. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about it. I want to get your two perspective, because you guys are not, hardcore Republican activists. I mean, Drew, you're getting there. David, you're probably a step ahead of that. Maybe not to my level.
I'm more libertarian. I'm willing to call out some of Trump's stuff when I feel like it's not a good faith. Yeah.
Me as a party official,
I'm not taking fight pictures in front of a golden statue like the Israelites in front of Mount Canaan or anything. AK.
But ultimately,
I don't know why I just took a shot at you. I'm sorry.
I'm just kind of curious.
I had a good lunch today. I'm sorry.
What's your guys?
I've been trying to understand the whole process since 2016 and a little bit before. I feel like every 2 or 4 years I learn a little bit more about the process and how all this stuff works, and I appreciate every week AK informs me a little bit more of how it all works. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense, because I always try to understand, like, when some of the politicians break away or are doing different things, or when I try to come, and you could tell me, like, I know I'm following the Brendan Herrera stuff a little bit and trying to understand as much. Trump didn't endorse him at first, the other guy, but then Brendan Herrera was able to win through different ways. And then now Trump's like, yep, he's a guy, all these different things. So I'm trying to relate to that in a way. But then also, we have this two-party system. I feel like I went through phases where I'm just like, okay, why even have two parties? Can't we have more options and then have 3 different people on the debate stage so they can act like a triple threat match in WWE where, each one is going for each other. It's not just one versus the other, like Kang and Kratos from The Simpsons, and they're both saying the same thing. I know I just threw a bunch of stuff out there, but it's mainly to keep each other in check and stuff like that. But then now, even in the Republican Party, there's people that are, the rhinos and the Trump and different ones going at each other. And honestly, it's so hard to keep up. Like, it'd be easier to keep up with NFL or something like that.
I feel like that's kind of the game of politics. Like, I remember Trump's first bid for president, him and Ted Cruz went neck and neck, and when they were going at each other at debates, like, Ted Cruz said some like moderately foul things about it, but then I saw it even on TikTok a while ago. There's this funny clip of like him saying Trump's this terrible whatever, he's a businessman, no experience in politics or whatever, and then it cuts to after Trump's the candidate for president. You got him at one of the call centers being like, hi, I'm calling you to about endorsing Trump for president, and like, can we expect your vote?
But it goes back and forth either way, because like Trump first called him lying Ted Cruz, like you're saying lies. But then after Trump got it, he's like, oh, it's a lion. He's a lion, Ted Cruz. He's strong and there's a big mane and stuff, and he's got the beard. And it's just like, so that's why like I'm at the point, AK,
but that is
where I can't keep up. And I heard that like they're fighting on C-SPAN on the stuff when cameras are on, and then they go out to lunch together, and they're all
chat. When's the last time you guys watched C-SPAN? Let us know.
Or, well, commentators now go on C-SPAN. And
just want to give a shout out to Catherine. As always, great Kathleen? Show, guys. Kathleen. Sorry, I know Kathleen. I said Catherine. Kathleen, Miss Kathleen. I've actually known her since 2000, probably 9-ish. So shout out to Kathleen. She's actually been involved with the Republican Party. She was actually the leader of her BPOU, Basic Political Organizing Unit. So shout out to her over in CD4. Here's what I just want to say again.
So AK, my question was like, what makes sense in the stuff. Hey, so like I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
a little bit more, but help me make sense of that.
Yeah. So again, if you become the president of the United States, you are the de facto leader of that party. And so when Obama was president, Obama called all the shots up and down the Democrat ticket. And when you understand if your party is not in power, everyone's vying, right? So like there's technically a chair of the Democrat National Committee, the DNC. His name's Ken Martin. He used to be the former chair of the DFL here in Minnesota, the Democrat Party. He was the chair. But there's actually not a leader anymore. You have the most recent leader, which would technically be Biden, but he no longer has power. And so what happens is when you don't have your president's not, the leader of your party is not in the White House, everyone's kind of jockeying for who's going to be the next powerhouse in the dynasty. So the way that it works right now is that when you had, like, again, the huge primary battle back in 2016, and they're all attacking each other, and President Trump is like the king of coming up with these names, right? And even think about in 2024, the lead up, technically you had DeSantis running, you had Nikki Haley running, right? You had Vivek, you had all these people that were running. And if you saw and you notice, some people like Vivek, they weren't actually running to defeat Trump. They were running so they could have Trump's favor. So they were always saying that Trump is such a great guy. DeSantis came off a little heavy-handed, and there is two camps. But now Trump has done so well, and DeSantis was smart to be like, I can't stand against the president of the United States. That's a battle you ain't going to win. And Thomas Massie is going to be a big test. We're going to find out tomorrow. Could Thomas Massie stand against President Trump, who President Trump is loved across the entire nation? And yes, in Thomas Massie's district, he's probably very well loved too. But is he loved more than the president? And
well, he's got more following than that. A lot of people, like David said, libertarian minded, freedom, raising chickens, and all this stuff can relate to that in a sense over the billionaire, CEO of real estate. There's different camps, but I totally see what you're saying. And and every politician has shady stuff apparently.
Right, but here's the thing to understand. It's because we have a party system. If you didn't want to be a Republican, right? You wanted to be independent, which is what Thomas Massie could be. Thomas Massie could say, I'm abandoning the Republican mantle part of the party because I recognize that the leader of the Republican Party is Donald Trump. Then you can do that. But if you want to call yourself a Republican and then go against the president, who is also a Republican and in charge of the Republican Party, that's just not very smart. And so I want to play just one quick video, just so you can understand that this is not just like the random, musings of A.K. Kamar, the crazy Republican National Committee man, who's obviously a Republican Party worshiper. Yeah, the Republican Party shill, which I am. I'll gladly say that. But let's listen to Vice President J.D. Vance.
To be here. Recently, President Trump endorsed a candidate to run against Republican Representative Thomas Massie, who has opposed and criticized some of the Trump administration's aims. How would you address those who fear that principled disagreement or independent thinking is discouraged within the party because of how it can be framed as a betrayal, instead of as internal accountability or an opportunity for debate and negotiation?
So it's a very good question. And let me say, this one is hard for me. And the reason it's hard for me is because Thomas Massie and he's one of the first people that ever reached out to me about my book or about political office. I've known Thomas Massie well before I ever got involved in politics. Thomas's wife died maybe it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It was a little while ago. She died very unexpectedly, was a very sweet and kind woman. And I was probably one of the first people that called Thomas to offer my condolences. I think the problem with Thomas, and I've told him this in private, and now I guess I'll say it in public, is it's one thing to disagree with the party on a particular issue. It's one thing to have your independent stand on a number of questions. And by the way, some of the stuff where Thomas Massie has been independent against the Republican Party, I've agreed with him with. Thomas and I worked together during 2023, where I was trying to stop the limitless flow of American money to Ukraine, and Thomas was one of the people I was working closest with it. But that's one thing. Being independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue, you're eventually going to make too many enemies. And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue, it's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massie. It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that that weren't the case. I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics, and when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you.
So again, the only reason I show that is to have people understand that as much as those that love Thomas Massie's principled stances on stuff, which is great, awesome, President Trump has a agenda to get by, and Thomas Massie just got too much of his attention. So he's like, I'm going to try and take him out. Now, this is a two-edged sword. If Thomas Massie survives the primary, he kind of creates a new fire underneath him and maybe a political movement that he will get probably leftists to support him just because the people that are so deranged against Trump. So it's not without peril. I still personally, put my, if I had to give you my bet, I think that Thomas Massie is going to lose tomorrow. It's possible that he doesn't, because again, he's so loved in his district. Only people that can vote for Thomas Massie are people that live in Kentucky. And you know what? I'm going to just Google it right now. If Kentucky has an open primary, and the reason this matters is if it's closed, you have to vote for the party that you are going to vote for then going forward. You can't cross over like Minnesota.
Right.
You can go and vote for a Democrat if you're a Republican straight down the ticket. But Kentucky, like just what happened in Louisiana, it was a closed primary. So only registered Republicans could vote. And so that's the question what it comes down to. So I'm going to just take
So if I wanted to vote for a Democrat that may not do well against a Republican in the general,
yeah,
I could do that in Minnesota.
In Minnesota, it's open primary.
Open primary, yeah.
Yep. Versus other states are not. And it says
where you're locked in. If you go one side, you're in that for the whole election.
So in Kentucky is a closed primary that only registered party members can participate. So if you're in Kentucky and you're a libertarian and you like during a general election to vote, maybe sometimes you'll vote Republican, sometimes you'll vote for whatever crazy libertarian gets thrown up. You can do that in a general election, but you would have to change your party affiliation in Kentucky to Republican in order to vote. And a lot of stuff comes with that because it's like a moral standpoint. Like you're going to change your party registration. So if you view yourself as a true independent and you're like, I'm unaffiliated, but yeah, I vote Republican like 95% of the time, you would have to change that. You would have to register as a Republican in order to vote. So that's why it's going to be a big, a big move if Massie survives this with as hard as Trump and the Trump admin has been going after. I mean, basically every executive they're sending cabinet members out to Kentucky for, but I've seen the opposite.
Yeah.
I've seen like all these people that are like influencers, and even Lauren Boebert are going to Kentucky to help Thomas Massie win the primary. So it'll be interesting.
It's so complicated between the same party, and then you got midterms coming up with the other party. And like you said, with the whole before Trump got in with Vivek and Nikki Haley, and it didn't seem like Nikki Haley turned out too well after that. Did she get favors or anything? It didn't seem like that was a bold move.
Dude, she got defeated
politically.
There's no
she came out swinging against Trump too. Like,
dude, there's no political future.
She was throwing haymakers.
No, there's no political future for her.
Which was tough because I followed her career before that, and a lot of
I liked her, man. I liked her. I thought she was pretty cool.
No.
Whereas
any of those warmonger types, I'm not into it. Like, profit off of somebody else's, something else. Like,
I like a little warmonger, a little war hawk.
I didn't see that part till later.
War profiteering means that your children be sacrificed on the altar of their bank account, and I'm not here for it.
It can be.
Every politician, you got to dive into their domestic policy and their foreign policy. And their monetary, like that's where I fall in, is like, where's the monetary policy? How does the monetary affect the average person, whatever middle class means and stuff like that? But yeah, great AK. Thanks for enlightening us on a little bit more of how it works and how it could work with the coming things. David, what are your last thoughts on this topic? And then I got another clip from the Vance guy before we go.
So I just think that we're looking at what just happened in the UK with this third party kind of coming out of nowhere and just sweeping politically. I think Massey's taking a huge gamble here, but like AK was saying, if he wins, right, he's going to be able to unify all the TDS Democrats probably to get behind him. He's probably going to be able to swing some of that libertarian representation, and you could see something like that spreading out to the other states if he's able to pull that off. And we'd end up with this like weird off branch of the Republican Party. That's possible.
Yeah. So especially. So we had.
Oh my God, this meme.
We had JD Vance. Now let's hear from JD Advance.
It just looks like Fat Bastard from Austin Powers.
Oh, this is the best one I've seen, dude. This is so good.
Oh, just wait for it. Wait for it. So good.
Just turn it down a little. People can't hear us.
Oh, okay. But the best part.
Dude, this is like shot for shot the exact remake.
Not Creed. Oh no.
Yes, Creed. All day and night Creed.
No, I love
All
Creed.
day and
I'm
night.
saying don't do this to Creed.
I like how they did it from like the acoustics live. That's funny.
Me got baby face, me big boss man. Me like America, me got good plan. Mexico water make.
Look how he changes over time.
Drew, I love you, but you have a touch of the tism with your obsession with JD Advance. It seems like he's just fixated on this. I don't think we've done a single episode where he hasn't referenced JD Advance.
It's so good.
Somebody in the chat, go back and check our old episode.
Drew's just getting ready for the 2028
Oh,
run.
good.
All right?
Yeah.
He's drawing his line.
That would probably be my first political donation. I don't think I've made it yet. Look, and it goes to like a Muppet type thing too.
He comes out on the campaign trail dressed like that.
I mean, that one doesn't look like him at all.
All right, yeah, let's.
America, me got good plan. Mexico water make Gulf US of A. Me make Zelensky say thanks to my face. Too many gender for my agenda. Wait for the bender, execo the sender. Might take Panama just like na.
Is this like, how many hours is this?
Yeah, dude, what is this like? Does say an hour and 25 seconds at the bottom?
Yeah.
No, it's that's a show.
Drew, that's
This is
enough,
only an
man.
intro. No.
Oh my god, I can't. That's too much.
Look, and it goes into the whole statue.
That's
Oh my god,
that
so
is
good.
So
That's an
good.
Mix of I'm on a
intro. So
boat.
shout out to D-Day Cobra. He does a commentary show kind of like we do, but he takes it to a whole new extreme and very entertaining. That's my comic relief is listening to this stuff. But yeah, I like how JD Vance just eats it up. For Halloween, he put on a beard and long hair with different people. So yeah, it's fun times. I like it.
That should be the White
AI.
House's next TikTok they put out. Is him in that outfit doing that dance?
I just like how it told his timeline. It's like me wrote a book, hillbillies and stuff. You know, it just takes it down. Too many genders.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
on
I
my
stopped
agenda.
listening to the lyrics. It became white noise a couple seconds in. I really
You
tried,
pick it up.
but it's
The more
just-
you watch it, it's like an acquired taste. Like,
Listen, man,
I
I
apologize
will
to
say
any
that
of our viewers struggling with epilepsy for that.
so the first video, right, how it started, it's like literally a shot for shot of that like 90s, like, I don't know, the guy's dressed like he's like heavy metal, but it's like a techno thing, and he's drinking like a giant thing of, I think it was beer, and then he starts walking and he's like doing all the moves. It was like a shot for shot.
That was a mug of boiled hot dogs. All I thought of was Austin Powers.
No, I know, but that's what makes it funny. But I think when it starts,
it's referencing something else.
Yes,
that's
it's
what
actually,
AI does. It always just
yeah.
references.
Yeah.
AI,
But
AI
was
is like a
shot
nostalgia.
for shot though of that, and that's like it's a great one because when you watch it, the guy looks like he's gonna be like heavy metal, but he's like a hardcore like techno like bro or whatever, and he does all these dances and he's like this jacked like white dude or whatever. It's like shot.
Remember that one episode where we said that people should use AI to advance career tasks and like job and business tasks?
Any new
and not for
technology we get,
nonsense.
the idea is we use it for good, but then you're gonna have idiots that use it for whatever.
Hey, listen,
I'm
here for it.
Listen, man, I was against having a data center, but between that video and another video that I saw that did what was it? I'll have to find it, but it remade something that was amazing. I was like, you know what? Put a data center in my backyard. All right, Doug. Just
well, pay me for it. Like I'll lease it out to you. Like probably can't any more kids, but all right, we're gonna give this a shot. Spin the wheel for our next fun topics. I haven't used this before, but we're gonna give it a shot. Can you hear that at all?
Oh, yeah. It's making a little.
All right, lab grown chocolate. AK, tell us about.
I like it. No, we have to do that. That's an excellent. You're just a master of the show. So
trying to figure it out.
Listen, man, we know that lab grown anything sounds awful, right? We know that. You want to know what sounds
meat and butter, yeah.
Right. You want to know what sounds even worse than lab grown, meat? Because I think you could kind of tell, right? The idea is that you're using cloning, and so you don't have to like actually raise a cow and raise a chicken. You just create slabs of meat. They are now doing lab grown chocolate, man. Lab grown chocolate. So this story from NPR, of course, they are selling it hard. In central Rome, Julian Simonis, I don't even know if I put the right, like language accent on there, holds a tiny bar of chocolate made from cacao beans that originated in Hawaii. He cracks it into pieces before unwrapping the gold foil that surrounds it. Simonis places a morsel on his tongue and then breathes through his nose and mouth and out through his nose. So in through his mouth, out through his nose to heighten the perception of the chocolate's aroma and taste. A look of reverence comes over him. My God. Or sorry, he whispered, my God. Each time I taste this, I'm always amazed. You have a boost of acidity. This burst of fresh flavors, Simonis detects a fruitiness and a hint of cardamom and nutmeg. And yes,
ladies, your next romance novel, the audiobook will be available in AK Kamara.
No, but this is for you. This is for you. This next line. When he does the same thing with a bit of chocolate produced from cacao, harvested on a Peruvian farm, he describes a flavor of raisins that gives way to nuttiness. It's extremely creamy. Long story short, basically when you make these, cacao beans and all that stuff, like you have to like go and plant them, and it takes resources and water and all this other stuff. And so instead of having to worry about doing that, some creepy, weird scientists have decided that they are going to actually create lab grown chocolate so they can just create it right in the lab. And it's horrifying to me. I don't want anything that is made from, replicating.
What is it made
cells.
from? Yeah, so it's made from chemicals or basic cloning in a way.
Yes, they're literally cloning it, dude.
GMO, genetically modified chocolate, GMC.
I feel like the amount of effort that it's probably taking to do that, just grow some cacao beans, dog. Like this is, you're doing too much. This is the definition.
What I always ask is like, what's
this is the guy that puts
result?
on 6 colognes before a first date. You know what I mean? Like, and wears like 8 chains. Like, you're doing too much. Just a clean shirt, 1 cologne, maybe 1 chain if you got to do that. I think a shirt and tie would be better, but whatever. But this is, and it's gross. And they're destroying the legacy of Peruvian chocolate, my people. Well, people of my origin. I'm an American now, but still, that hurts a little. I've had
Well,
some
that does
Peruvian
take. That's a
chocolate.
good
It's
point. It takes away
delicious.
trade. So if you're not
Mhm.
trading with Peru, you're making it in
Yep.
Mexico. I don't know. You're
Destroying
like, here's
an
your lab
entire
grown.
industry.
Yeah, you would be making it in Texas, and then they do that for a while, but then they're like, "Oh, nope, we're gonna lay people off, and we're gonna ship the fake chocolate company to Mexico to have it made there, and then move over here for tax reasons." And then you get
It's
this.
going to be the Corona of chocolate, a German beer bottled in Mexico, bought in America.
Like I said, I just always ask, like, what's the end result? And it's like, why? Then why even eat it? You know? Then it's like, for me, like my elimination diet, I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need to spend $12 on coffee with chemicals and all that kind of stuff. I'll just water, good enough for me. Like, you know, and then invest that $12 in the S&P 500 that hopefully grows at 10% if the stocks don't crash and do all that. But
Yeah, I mean, to
yeah.
me, at the end of the day, like, I think trying to do these things to take away from the process that is natural, right? You know, raising a cow, raising a chicken, slaughtering it, all that good stuff. That's the way it's intended to be. Putting things together in a lab petri dish environment for the purposes of like saving the environment is stupid. Just go and make things.
Well, and then the business side, then instead of a country owning that, you know, product, that resource, so what? Then you got, I'm just throwing a name out there, 3M that owns the fake Peruvian chocolate,
right?
And now they have the patent to that. And so
Hey, we'll
whenever
get
that's
some money
going
out of
anywhere-
that. Remember that 3M earplug lawsuit? All the veterans got like a couple grand.
Right.
All right. So here's a question for the chat, for the viewers. Ladies,
Oh, no, wait,
if you
we
get,
got it.
if you
We're
get
spinning the wheel,
lab
bro.
grown chocolate for Valentine's Day, are you staying in that relationship? You get some fake chocolate?
We're gonna
Admit,
talk
would
about
you
the
buy
end of the
fake
session.
chocolate?
Maybe we have one lady in the chat. We'll
One
see.
lady in the chat right now that watches live.
We got a couple. We got a
that watches
couple.
live. Yeah, no, we definitely got some other ladies that watch back. Just maybe not
All
live.
right.
They're busy.
What
doing
is
their hair
going
and
on with
stuff.
the 2026 Minnesota session, AK?
Yeah, so if you live in Minnesota and you at all care about not becoming the next communist state, where some people say, well, we already are the communist state. We're not.
The People's Republic of Minnesota.
We're not. We've actually been able to push back quite a bit of things because we have a perfect tie. But our legislative session is done. So basically, our session starts in January, and it has to be over by the 18th of May. It could be over earlier, but basically, the end of the session typically is a marathon of a bunch of Republicans and Democrats trying to compromise because there's certain things that you need to do, other things that you don't need to, depending on the year. But the legislative session is over, thank God. One of the things that was kind of towards the end of the session, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was this huge push in a bill that all of the corporate media was selling as a gun safety bill, and it was a gun ban bill that was going to literally ban assault style rifles in the state of Minnesota, which if you look at their classification of what an assault style rifle would be, it would make thousands, literally thousands of law abiding Minnesotan gun owners, it would make their firearms illegal. And I'm not talking about like fully automatic, because we all know, those of us that know anything about Second Amendment, those already are illegal unless you have a machine gun tax stamp, right? But ultimately that didn't pass. So the session is over. There were some positives. Republicans were able to hold the line because, again, we had a perfect 50-50 tie in the state house. So if every Republican stuck together, then nothing could pass that the Democrats wanted to pass. And that's what happened. But they did create an office of independent inspector general, I should say. And that's meant to actually go and search out fraud. And they gave them some powers earlier in the session. Basically, Democrats were all against it. And then they started singing a different tune because they realized that not supporting getting rid of fraud is very unpopular. So Democrats decided to change their tune on that. A couple of other things to just kind of note is that ultimately this was not a budget year. Last year was a budget year. So, you know, kind of all of these crazy bills that get passed where there's all this funding going through. That didn't happen. And the most important thing for people to understand, the amount of insane bills that would have been passed if just one more Democrat was elected to the state house, it would be basically anything that they wanted to do, they would have continued to do. But because Republicans held the line and not a single one of them broke ranks, none of the crazy stuff that they wanted to push was able to get passed. And so that's basically the end of the session. From your two's perspective, was there any bill that you were following or that you wished had passed or that you're glad didn't pass? Just kind of curious.
Yeah, I was just following the gun control bill. I just heard a little bit about it over the last couple of weeks, but heard that it could pass, but then it was could be fought against in the the Senate. Then could.
Yeah, so basically in the state of Minnesota, in the state of Minnesota, the bill has to pass the Senate and the House, and then it will be signed by the governor. And so in the Senate, Republicans have 33 senators, Democrats have 34. So they can pass every single bill by a straight party vote, but Republicans and Democrats are perfectly tied in the House. So it passes the Senate and it's an issue that Republicans are standing firm on. It can't pass, so then it can't ever go to the governor for him to sign.
Got it. And we'll be hard pressed to get a Republican governor. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah,
but,
I just want to go over a couple of just quick things, things to understand that do affect everyday Minnesotans. They created the independent office, I should say, of Inspector General. So like I said that earlier, there is $125 million in property tax relief that will be available via the property tax refund process. Republicans were able to get Democrats to sign on to that because initially they weren't going to. $250 million in one-time vehicle tab fee reductions. So even though it's not what we really, really wanted, which was to roll everything back, they are going to do this one-time tab reduction fee. And so that's going to be useful. They did end up giving $705 million to HCMC. That's one thing that we kind of capitulated on. The reason that HCMC, which is a hospital here in Minneapolis, is underwater is because they give a bunch of healthcare to illegal aliens. And a bunch of their Medicaid funding and Medicare funding is being cut off by the federal government because they said you can't give illegal aliens healthcare. Otherwise, we're going to reduce your formula of funding. And then there was a school safety bill that did pass that included requirements for schools to use anonymous threat reporting systems. Funding for school-linked mental health services was also passed. It's just they were trying to tie that so hard to banning guns.
So that's going off what Dave was saying is a good reform when it comes to that for school shootings and other stuff and parenting and stuff like that. And so hopefully from what I'm hearing is a lot of stuff when it comes to the fraud, a lot of stuff with Nick Shirley and other things that went down maybe actually had an impact. It's easy to believe that nothing ever happens, or everything gets gridlocked or the wrong people get the right stuff passed or whatever. But it sounds like, a few things did improve for the better.
And there's one last
taxes.
Yeah. The one last thing too, is that there was a bill that passed limitations on social media accounts for children. Social media companies will need to check if users are below 16. If so, those users will need to get parental consent and their accounts will not have addictive features such as infinite scroll. That one I think is going to be harder to actually implement, but I think it's a good first step.
What constitutes infinite scroll?
That it doesn't stop ever. Like at some point it has to stop and make you take like a timeout or whatever. So that is
me personally. I put that stuff on my phone. You can pick the app and say how many hours you want on there. And so
it feels like giving government control over children in another manner.
I know.
Yeah, but
then who's going to determine
answer?
what is the addictive bit? What is the addictive content? What's acceptable content? Right? Like now you've got
but is it moving in the right direction?
Bureaucracy. No, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, I'm apprehensive about leaving that in the hands of the government.
I heard the one way that would be effective is to charge every person $1. Like, so you would have to have a debit card or a credit card to use Facebook, to use X, to use whatever.
And like $1 to set up your account.
Yeah. And so every account would cost $1. And it's like, hey, if you want to use it, pay to play, and that will keep, kids without, access to that. It's never going to be perfect, of course, but that'd be a thing. But I heard that was introduced into the conversation.
I was gonna
And
say, I know a
social
lot of
media
kids that are
websites,
buying M for Mature games on their Xbox with mom and dad's credit
there's
card.
always going to be a way to get into R-rated
But
movies,
yeah,
and stuff like that. But it's going to keep that 8-year-old from getting into, this or that, and then it. All right, yeah, that's enough on that topic. What
Let
else
me,
do we?
real
let
quick,
me.
Drew, we
Yeah,
got
go
a
ahead, Drew.
shout out in the chat about.
Oh
the
yeah, let's talk
lab-grown
that right.
chocolate.
Tab is awesome. Tab's journey. So she says, basically, hell no, hell and a cross off symbol on lab grown chocolate and anything lab grown. That is a food item. And so yeah, Tab is awesome. She's also vaccine injured, similar to myself, and we've been on the journey together and communicating back and forth. That's the only way to do it when you've been mistreated, is to find other people that have been, share stories, share resources. That is the best way to do it. No man is an island. You cannot do it on your own. Tab is awesome. She is a fighter. She's a firecracker. And then check out her X page, Tab's Journey.
Sweet.
Shout out to Tab. Tab, real quick. The second part of that question was, if you got those as a Valentine's or a birthday gift, would that be the end?
Right. Game over, bro. It'd be like you're trying to
Inquiring
poison
minds
me.
want to know, right?
You're trying to kill me
This
with
is
your
love.
lab
This is
grown
poison.
chocolate?
All right, let's do one more.
It's like when you
fun-
marry
or
one
not
of those
fun
people
topic.
that starts serving you mushroom
Honorable
coffee.
mention. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, did I already have it on one? No, we did the chocolate. Gosh, another 8K topic. That's fine. We can do
Oh,
this.
I love this one.
Yeah. All right, this will be our last one for the night. AK, tell us about ticks.
Yeah, do you guys like meat? I love meat.
Yes. So
Listen,
yeah,
I just
to
had
start it
a
off,
full-on ribeye for dinner.
I had Kona Grill, which we should all go to sometime if you haven't been.
Oh,
there.
we should.
Game.
We should.
I love Kona. Let's do it.
I had the Wagyu fried rice, and it was absolutely amazing. It was a perfect lunch. And so, yeah, I stick to the least amount of ingredients possible and do meat, vegetables, fruit whenever possible. And that's how I've kind of kept my health going as well as I can, rather than the previous me being all Taco Bell and I don't know, Funyuns. I didn't eat Funyuns, but whatever was in the cupboard.
More like
so.
a Taco John's kind of guy, but all right.
No, never.
So
what's going on?
So basically,
with
there's
ticks?
been multiple stories that have been popping up all across the country that there are ticks that are biting people, and essentially it triggers something called the alpha-gal syndrome, and it's a rare condition that causes red meat allergies. And Minnesota recently had a story about it. Pennsylvania had a story about it. Now, do you guys remember there was like kind of some people are calling it a conspiracy, but at this point, right, most conspiracies actually are things that are true,
months.
right? Yeah,
Give
exactly.
it 6 months and a bunch of influencers to prove it,
Like
right.
110%. But one of those conspiracies was that there was a time where Bill Gates allegedly thought that it was interesting that you could have mosquitoes that if they bit people, that it would make them allergic to red meat. And that was one of his solutions, because you got to remember, right, that Bill Gates and all of these other globalists were going through this phase where they were like, oh, cows fart and they, emit a lot of, methane gas, and they also, use a lot of other resources, and they exhale a lot of CO2. So if we just ate less meat all across the world, then we could actually help lower our carbon emissions. You guys remember that story at all? That was kind of going on, right?
No,
And
there was a ton of it over
Yeah.
like 20 years ago. And even here's your pop culture reference on the show Las Vegas, which was on like NBC, and then I watched it on I think TNT reruns in college. Really good show. That's where Timothy Olyphant kind of got his start, along with James Caan, this kind of thing. But yeah, Tom Selleck came on as a casino owner for a little bit, and he was owning ranches and stuff like that. And he said something I was surprised about. He's like, yeah, if I gave in to the liberals and Democrats, they would say that my cows fart too much and I should get rid of them. And that would cause millions of people to go hungry and they wouldn't get their food from this. So you got to have that conversation.
This ties into that thing that's been going on, that you've had people on Instagram and TikTok and even X showing these videos of like people in the farming communities just finding boxes of ticks in fields, um, with no explanation like how they got there or what it's about. And so that's led many tinfoil hat people to suspect that, you know, some of the larger powers at play are trying to make us allergic to red meat. You know, I mean, you have somebody like the psychopath in AK's photo here that thinks that we're overpopulated and he wants to decrease the human population by 10%. But then, yeah, you've also got the cows are bad, but these people all eat that. So it's, you know, it's more of that rules for thee and not for me, if it's true. But it's definitely, you know, it definitely raises questions. Like, I think too many things happening at the same time is not a coincidence.
Yeah, and like this is the thing, right? This is not an isolated story. I saw the story, Star Tribune, saw a story about Pennsylvania. Now there's this story that a wave of ticks is headed for Ontario, and I'm telling you, like this, this just there's so many coincidences, and I'm not going to be a person that says, you know, there's too many coincidences to be a coincidence. That's actually stupid. Okay, that's a low IQ take. Sometimes there are just a lot of coincidences. It's true. But I'm just saying that the way that these stories are being pushed, along with, again, what you were saying, David, you're spot on. There are YouTubers that don't make any political content. They're literally just outdoors YouTubers. And they are reporting that they're finding huge clusters of ticks, unlike anything they've ever seen before. And when you couple that with this alpha gal syndrome that makes people allergic to red meat, it really does make you say, I wonder what the Malthusian anti-human globalists are up to, because they didn't just fall asleep and die. All right, just because you know Trump is in power doesn't mean that they disappeared. Just makes
and what's crazy is how good a red meat diet actually is for you, contrary to what a lot of people like. Hey, yeah, does it have its negative drawbacks like anything does? I mean, yeah, if you sit there and eat chocolate all day, you know, going back to the last story, that's not good for you either. But like in my own life, you know, I was almost 300 pounds and I switched over to primarily red meat, eggs, and fish, you know, with some vegetables. And I did that for about a year. I lost 100 pounds. I gained like 30 pounds of muscle. I looked incredible. Now the holidays happened. I put a little on. We're fixing that. But like this, if this is an intentionally done thing, they're intentionally making people less healthy because, you know, like I was saying, red meat is beneficial. And I have here something I want to show you guys. So this is just this video I pulled up on X. It's been going viral. It's one of several, but this person's walking out onto their land, and they find this box just plumb full of ticks. And
I don't want to watch.
Maybe they were in that box. Maybe they weren't.
What's in the box?
Maybe they found it, but I have questions, you know, about and I think further down there's some pictures of what's actually like the ticks and stuff in it.
Let's not.
But maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I just think, like I said, too many.
All my army missions and training, and you
raise
just go in the
questions.
woods, and you have to just lay there doing your training missions and stuff while ticks and
laying in the
centipedes and hot ants or whatever they're called crawl all over you. Yeah.
Fire ants.
There you go. That's what. Yeah, fire ants. That's how you earn those fucking benefits. Excuse me, my language. Like,
wow. Well, we're demonetized, but that is true.
No, we're not.
No, not now with that. Not with that.
It's like that.
But no,
he's out of line, but he's not wrong.
Hey, Tab actually had a follow-up to answer your question, David.
Oh yeah,
she said that the relationship wouldn't be over if you gave her a box of lab-grown chocolate, but she would definitely throw it in the trash. And also, shout out to Drew. Thank you for such a sweet shout out, Drew. So
absolutely,
you know, shout out to all of our viewers. Again, we're gonna read the comments as we're growing. You know, there's no paywall. One day it would be great to, you know, we'd only read your super chats, but right now, just please jump in the show. Your comments are super, super helpful. And we appreciate each and every one of the comments that all of you
Tab,
leave.
would you listen to a romance audio novel read by the illustrious A.K. Kamara? I feel like that's a marketing opportunity there.
That's a behind the paywall.
So yeah,
that's behind the paywall.
That's for the members only section.
That's a members only. Once we get a members only.
Read by A.K.
But listen, man,
Kamara.
I only read straight romance, all right? So, you know, I love my gay friends, but I ain't doing the homo stuff, all right? Just throwing it out.
I'm gonna work on trying to read the tax code because I want that's you're talking politics. I want to understand the tax code and how the people that do it effectively and all this stuff.
Yeah,
But
and not
yeah,
go to prison.
let's
don't take
yeah,
it.
we'll not
Don't
do
take
it.
tax advice from Wesley Snipes. All right, man, you're gonna end up in prison.
Yeah, well, Mother Effer is always trying to ice skate uphill. When he said that in Deadpool versus Wolverine, I'm
he
like,
was referencing
yes!
his tax returns.
I know.
He looked at them and he felt like he was ice skating uphill.
Oh gosh, I need a. It was so tough. They tried to make this Blade movie in the last couple of years with Mahershala
Ali, yep.
Mahershala Ali, and all you had to do was have like Blade, like Wesley Snipes, early in 2000s, have a black guy killing vampires. That's all we want to see, and they're trying to do this all diversity. They're trying to pass it on to his daughters and do this and have this.
It's too
I want to
much.
see
It's too much.
I want to see
Well,
old man Wesley Snipes. I want to see Wesley Snipes as
Mahershala Ali. He's too old to be Blade if you're trying to start a new franchise. If you're doing a relaunch of the character, you need to
do a
somebody
Logan
young.
style. Yeah. All right, we're getting too much into it, and my OCD for completing.
Tab also said, "I'm dying. No romance for me." So Tab is out on the AK Romance Red audiobook. That's okay, Tab. It's all right. My chocolatey smooth voice is for every woman.
All right,
listen. There's
AK,
a market. There's a market demand for that somewhere.
AK,
I mean, if women swoon to
people
Idris
find
Elba's
you?
voice, you got some money in there.
What are your final thoughts, AK? Where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on the internet, specifically on TikTok at AK Kamara. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on X over at Real AK Kamara, where I put out bangers like the one that you saw. You know, the specific image that I created of Bill Gates pointing, that was an AK AI creation. But on top of that, you can see some of the super sweet adventures in AKing that happen from time to time. Like when I was down at the Trump Doral National Golf Course, and I got to see the fight statue. It is real. It's 22 feet tall. It's a bronze statue in golden wrap leaf. It was made by the guys that made the meme coin Patriot, and they're the ones that commissioned this, and it's super sweet. But if you guys follow me there, you can check all that out. I might be making a trip to the White House on a day that I can't disclose to have a dinner. Not just myself, it's a bunch of other people as well. So that may be happening, and so follow me on all my socials there. David, where can people find you, my friend?
Absolutely. The Peruvian Gentleman here. You can find me at The Peruvian Gentleman on all my social medias, where, as I said, I'm rage baiting leftists and kind of lately just throwing out the pop culture memes. I mean, I got a bunch of AI videos of Elliot Page as Achilles. They're fantastic. I highly recommend them. Yeah, I like talking about health and fitness in my limited understanding of it, and just participating in pop culture and what's going on in the entertainment industry, whether it's music, film, TV shows, and I care about the stories we're telling and retelling.
Outstanding. Great conversation, guys. Chat, you've been awesome. You just get better and better each time, like a fine wine. But no, it's awesome. You can find me on X at Drew Outstanding, is where I talk about more of the spicy topics and kind of get going with people and get your thick skin and meet some awesome people like Tab. Tab's journey on there too. So that's been great. But then on my more fun and time adaptive sports, Operation Drew Outstanding on YouTube. That's where you can find me. And I've been doing a little bit more physical media collection. So maybe it's not up here right now, but I do have another YouTube channel called Physical Media Warriors, where I'm collecting all kind of physical media. So I've never seen it. I've never been into Dungeons and Dragons, but I picked up about 30 different VHS, Iron Monkey, Die Hard in the factory sealed, so all kinds of stuff like that.
Nice.
It's a way that I touch grass and get a pulse on the real estate market and just be able to talk with people what they're into. But yeah, you can find me on those. I will not be on the show next week. I'll be on special assignment. I might be able to tune in and jump on and be a correspondent, if you will. But I'm working on a really cool project for my event planning and consulting business. So it'll be pretty epic. And I just wanted to make sure everything goes smoothly in the next 7 days before I get going. But yeah, it'll be exciting. Thank you to everybody. Like the episode, share the episode on all these. Like I said, we're on all this: X, Rumble, YouTube, iTunes, all of those. Pick whatever one you like and share it on different ones. Thank you, everybody. Have an outstanding night. We'll see you next week.
And also have an amazing Memorial Day by honoring those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So just wanted to add that out as well.
Good point.
I appreciate that, AK.
Absolutely.
One final shout out: if you're in Minnesota, Fort Snelling on Monday, they'll have a Memorial Day service at the cemetery. I go every year. You can go volunteer to lay flowers on, the graves of soldiers who maybe don't have family to come and lay flowers on their graves. I highly recommend everybody consider that.
Peace out.
Good
I'll
point.
be there if you do.
Culture warriors unchained.